I'll start first with Alonzo Kent. He was the person who built this Kent mansion. He was born in Royalton, Vermont in 1810, came to Jamestown in 1832. He married Mercy Rice, the daughter of the owner of the tavern in which Alonzo first stayed here. He arrived in Jamestown with 50 cents in his pocket, and it is said that Mercy Rice convinced him to establish a school for penmanship when she saw his wonderful handwriting. He did so, and this launched his career. He did end up with a dry goods store. He did not continue his penmanship school for long. He and Mercy had 5 children, 3 of them living to adulthood. They did leave the area, so things haven't changed from then to now. So many young people seem to be leaving this area. They did that back in the 1800s. The 3 children were Ellen, who married Spore Mackey, Alonzo Francis, who married twice, Maggie Cook, and I can't remember the last name, I think it was Mary somebody, it was his second wife, and Lilla Augusta married James Bromley. And we know they traveled. Both daughters were in Florence, Italy for a while in the 1890s, as 2 of Lilla's children were born there, and Ellen died there in 1897. Alonzo Kent died in Jamestown in 1888. Alonzo built the house at 305 East 4th Street, and that is the Kent Mansion back there. It was built in 1859-60. One place I've read that it was the first modern house in Jamestown. Another claims that it was the first brick house in Jamestown. And we're going to have to do further research to verify the first brick house claim. And at this point, we can only guess what they meant by the first modern house in Jamestown in 1860. I know they didn't have indoor plumbing at that point because the sewer system in Jamestown started in 1894. The Fenton Mansion didn't have indoor plumbing as such until 1897. The original house that Alonzo built is smaller than what we see today. The assessed value of the home and the 5/8 acre in 1864 was $9,000. Fenton's home and the 3.5 acre lot was valued at $13,000 at that time. And this comes from the assessor's rolls for the city of Jamestown. As I said, Alonzo had a dry goods store, and he added lumbering to that business. Alonzo's uncle, Joseph Moss Kent, had moved to Cherry Creek, New York from Royalton, Vermont in 1815. His son Joseph, born in 1814, grew up in Cherry Creek, where he became known as the lumber king of the Upper Conowingo. It is probably this family connection that brought Alonzo to this area, and it may have been his cousin's lumber business that influenced the lumber side of the dry goods store. Alonzo also started the Jamestown Bank in 1853. He was the president, J.E. Mayhew was the cashier, and the directors of that bank were Alonzo Kent, Orcel Cook, Reuben Fenton, Galusha Grove, and Sardius Stewart. The bank was incorporated in 1864 as the First National Bank of Jamestown, with the same officers and directors. And it was on the corner of 3rd and Main, where the First National Bank has been since then. It is now, M&T? In 1866, the tax assessments for Jamestown showed Alonzo Kent with $41,472.22 taxable share in the bank. Reuben Fenton and Sardius Stewart had $19,608.62 each, with 20 others having a lesser share in the bank. Alonzo continued as president until 1881, when Reuben Fenton became president until his death in August of 1885. Alonzo was again president of the bank until his death in 1888. Not a lot has been written about Alonzo Kent that I've been able to find. He was a pretty quiet man within the community, a very prosperous man. And his obituary in the Jamestown Journal quotes Hazeltine's History of Ellicott. I'd like to read that part to you. This is the Evening Journal of the 25th of May, 1888. Death of Alonzo Kent, one of the oldest residents in this city, enters into rest. About 1 o'clock this afternoon, the death of Alonzo Kent occurred at his home on East 4th Street. Had he lived until next September, his age would have been 79 years. It is too late this afternoon to prepare a suitable memorial of Mr. Kent, who has for many years been one of Jamestown's foremost citizens. For over half a century, he has resided here. From Dr. G.W. Hazeltine's History of Ellicott is taken the following extract. Mr. Kent has been one of our most active and one of our most successful businessmen. In 1834, he commenced the sale of dry goods in a small and provident way, in what had previously been Shaw's drugstore, just above Fenner's shoe store. I think we'll find that is on Main Street between 2nd and 3rd Street. He soon entered into partnership with Walter Stevens, and they added lumbering to their previous trade in dry goods, in which they were successful. Mr. Kent continued in the dry goods trade, either alone or in company with others, until in 1853, when he established the Jamestown Bank. The name after the war was changed to the First National Bank. He was made president of this bank in 1853 and continued to hold this office until a few years ago, when he retired in favor of his friend, Governor Fenton. Since the governor's death, he again put on the harness of active life, which he has since continued to wear. Coming to Jamestown in 1832 with 50 cents in his pocket, Alonzo Kent, by energy and strict attention to business, has made himself one of the wealthy men of the county. It goes on to say, a more suitable sketch of the life of Mr. Kent, together with a notice of the funeral, will appear in a subsequent issue of the journal. The next day, all I found was the resolution from the bank about Alonzo Kent and his death, and at the end, the information about the funeral. And I'm going to read that because I just like old newspapers and their wording. The funeral will be held Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock from the residence, corner of East 4th Street and Prendergast Avenue, and will be conducted by the Reverend A.C. Ellis of the First M.E. Church, assisted by the Reverend John Pete, D.D. The remains will lie in state at the family residence between the hours of 2 and 3 tomorrow afternoon. All who desire a last look at the features of the deceased will have an opportunity during the hour given. Newspapers are wonderful from that time period. So that's a very brief look at Alonzo Kent, who was the one who built the house.